This video is about the myth of decadence decay and comparing this to where I was at in my anti-social justice warrior days. Because I noticed What If Alt Hist is definitely not okay with social justice. You know, for better or worse, I can see the obnoxious attitudes that sometimes come out of them, but that's that's for the next video, actually. So anyways, yeah, I'm expecting backlash a little bit because I don't have the geographical knowledge to compare with his geographical knowledge. Anyways, so What If Alt His shows many scans and timelines, usually in the form of anti-China propaganda, where most of his claims is that we borrowed from them because they're better than us, implying Western self-loathing, though most of the time we take cultural artifacts is because of exotic ideas, and so we can ogle them, and the Smithsonian steals stuff not because we perceive them as better. It's because we have the manpower and the strength to obviously infiltrate other cultures and do all that. It's not seen as us having a weakness. That's crazy. No one's ever said that before. Okay. So he is out of contextly comparing cultural appropriation of today and comparing the back thenness of stealing cultural artifacts, and acts like they're the same attitudes waiting on different sides of the past and current, which I think is ridiculous because, like I said, we steal stuff in the past because they're exotic and because we have the capability technologically to, and the strength and manpower, not because we're self-loathing. So it's a silly thing. And What If Alt His uses a standard linear stage of evolving humans, starting vaguely with barbarians, which is debatable if he's speaking historically or his own opinion, since he draws on his own map renditions, labeling small-scale societies as savages that lay outside of history, which is crazy. I think he contradicts himself in this framing with the Vikings, which are pure and something to look up to, you know, even though the barbarians have been known to party, apparently, ceremonially. The barbarians are converted to civilization, as he implies. This stage is the most reasonable, based on vague strength and war, what he calls the disagreeable real world, as we evolved to civilization, and somehow war meant we're civilized, I guess. Invoking demented strongmen and great man theory, framing anti-war sentiment as a trick caused by what different things he calls decadence. Yes, anti-war is decadence, I guess. In this instance, he uses a dichotomy, the Me Too movement and feminism ideals, comparing that to World War II times and the struggles of the past being more valid than today. He shows an activist holding up a sign, a crossed out Hitler, that says, not in America. Yet he rails against this, sort of like a dog whistle. He's railing against the crossed out real world, as he would put it. The barb converting to proper civilization, converting to luxury of pacified feminism, or decadence, as he would call this. Sometimes that's taking away the intensity of men, as some men feel that women coming into the male spaces do, which I've always heard mean in a religious context, like avoiding devil-based woman attitudes of sexuality. Of course, this doesn't have to mean that. As usual, it's the war versus sex love thing, as I assume, which it might not. But he implies the real world, or real man in this case, are casted aside for anti-war leftists to avoid reality. This dude would probably say a real-world man, like Hitler, as he frames it, getting laid and thus World War II not happening. He would consider this a trick or a corruption of reality, which is interesting. Anyways, even if ancient China did open up the West to woman acceptance, this is not some conspiracy. It's a good deed, obviously, and cultures use other cultures all the time, unless you're resistant to global trade. You might just stagnate after a while. This doesn't have to be a China thing when it comes to uh, alt his framing. This is a conspiracy. It's just like blaming the Jews and communists for human rights flourishing, thus calling it degeneracy. That's it. It's literally that surface level, in my opinion. Trading is decadence, I guess, when it's mixing cultures. Or just the cultures he wants to dog whistle. He says current humans have politically only become ass kissers, and recently by showing businesses subjecting itself to the woke mob or Disney supporting gay rights, while throwing around hints we have to go back to the dueling. What an odd time in America to be saying that with our American school shootings and such, right? I don't know what this dude is talking about with the ass kissing. Humans have always had leaders or chiefdoms, give or take hunter-gatherer leaders, but there are always social rules by any society, implying a little ass kissing to an authority or concept made by humans. We follow the rules out of respect, or at least to shut someone up, right? So what if alt his thinks agreeability is decadence, I guess? You know, I'm pretty sure nobody acts like everybody is okay with everybody. Like, we are civilized by shaking hands and opening doors, or not opening doors, but there's no reason to get pissed if someone doesn't open a door. Alright, there's a lot of reasons for demise, but what if connects the fall of Roman Empire by decadence, like fun and dancing? He claims we dance now in our society, implying, watch out, the fall is coming, but despite this not affecting our weapon capability and mass guns, nuclear deterrence, etc. But of course, the fall of civilization, in his mind, isn't crappy resource allocation, such as awful healthcare, crumbling infrastructure. Nope, it's these damn people partying and dancing, I guess. I'm pretty sure he didn't cite the Vikings as partiers either. And if he did, he contradicted himself. Hold on. He then makes the bizarre euphemism that doesn't really say anything besides fascist undertones based on his language. He quotes, "We live in a reality what we say it is, but not what the real world believes." If it wasn't for him showing activist versus real world photos as his argument, I would just assume he was talking about the internet and slacktivism. But even the internet is a reflection of who we are. This is not relevant, though, because we know what he means. The last criticism I can remember of this issue with modern-day society, mixing gender reform. Whatever your opinion, he mixes gender reform and NFTs and talks about this in the same, conversation as if they're the same thing and same historical, underpinnings. So, yeah. He's just, looking at random things in society and calling it decadence at this point. The final point he made is a sort of virtue signal, talking about bloodshed to get us where we are today, which is contradictory. That language implies a good trajectory, which goes against the agreeable real world that devalues the progress being made. He's either justifying strongman / great man, or claiming war and working class blood is the threshold of action. Anything less is not necessary, and his and others who think social justice is not needed anymore. The reason World War II happened was many, but overall was global self-defense. Because Hitler, the Nazis, and probably Soviet Russia wanted to take over the world, not staying in their own lane. America stayed in its lane during its Holocaust that lasted into the 1970s, and killing black kids in America while U.S. was fighting the Battle of Normandy. The LGBT struggle in Ohio and elsewhere is in their own lane, until social justice is unraveled backwards. Then we act, when it's global. So, what if alt-hist likely believes that the civil rights saga, with suffrage, racial discrimination, gay rights, they all had their time and place. He actually doesn't think old social justice is the ancestor to current day social justice, because there's no inheritance or personal relation, but does not believe the attitudes in America are inherent to our history to continue to the same talking points. map redlining to digital redlining, or abortion rights to Roe versus Wade being stripped again. Though cutting back on autonomy is, in his opinion, the disagreeable real world.